Welcome to Karma Canvas, the king of notions, how illusion creates reality, the story of Dasura. In the sacred tradition of Advaita Vedanta, there exists a teaching so profound that it shatters the foundations of how we perceive reality itself. We gather in the presence of the great sage Vasistha, who sits with the young Prince Rama beneath the eternal stars. The question that burns in Rama's heart, and in yours, is this: what is real and what is illusion? To answer, Vasistha begins not with philosophy, but with a story. He says, "O Rama, I shall now narrate to you an interesting legend that will illuminate the very nature of this world appearance. In the prosperous land of Magadha, renowned for its pleasure gardens and abundance, there lived a great ascetic named Dasura. Unlike the masses who pursue worldly pleasures with desperate fervor, Dasura was engaged in breathtaking penance, devoted entirely to the realization of truth. He was learned and wise, yet his path was marked by early tragedy. When he was but a young boy, both his parents passed from the world, leaving him inconsolable in his grief. The forest deities, moved by his sorrow, approached the grieving boy with wisdom. They said to him, "O wise boy, you are the son of a sage. Why do you weep like an ignorant fool? Do you not know the evanescent nature of this world appearance? Things come into being, they exist for a while, and then they are destroyed. Whatever being appears to be, even Brahma the Creator himself, is subject to this inevitable end. Therefore, do not grieve over the death of your parents." Comforted by this teaching, Dasura performed the funeral rites of his parents with steady hands and awakening awareness. Yet he did not yet understand the deepest truth. Instead, he began a life of rigorous religious observance, hemmed in by countless do's and don'ts, immersed in rituals and their injunctions. This very perfection of practice created in him a feeling that the entire world was filled with impurities. He made a vow: he would live upon a treetop, away from all corruption. With absolute conviction, Dasura performed a sacred rite of tremendous power. He cut off and offered his own flesh into the ceremonial fire, offering his very body as a sacrifice to realize his intention. Immediately, the fire deity himself appeared before the young ascetic, blazing with divine glory, and announced with certainty, "You will surely attain the wish which has already appeared in your heart." In that very moment, a magnificent kadamba tree appeared before him, vast and cosmic in its proportions. Its branches spread like the arms of the eternal being itself, reaching upward to touch the heavens while rooting deep in the earth. The tree bloomed with endless flowers that rained down like blessings upon the sages who traversed the sky. Bees dwelt upon it, singing songs of welcome to celestial beings. The sun and moon seemed to shine from its highest reaches, a pillar linking the worlds. Dasura ascended this cosmic tree, climbing ever upward until he reached the topmost branch. From that pinnacle between earth and sky, he gazed in all directions and beheld a vision of the cosmic being itself, the eternal form underlying all existence. For this reason, he became known as Kadamba Dasura, the sage of the Kadamba tree. There, sitting upon the highest branch, he commenced his austerities. Though he had been trained in Vedic rituals, he now performed them mentally, in the depths of his consciousness. The power of these mental practices purified his mind completely, and he attained pure wisdom. One day, as Dasura sat in meditation upon his celestial throne, a nymph of extraordinary beauty appeared before him, adorned with flowers and divine radiance. The sage asked her, "O beautiful lady, with your radiance you can overpower even Cupid himself." "Who are you?" The nymph replied, "Lord, I am a deity of the forest. I have just returned from a festival where I met other goddesses, each with her children. Yet I alone was childless, and this causes me great unhappiness. In your presence, why should I suffer? Grant me a son, or I shall reduce myself to ashes in despair." The sage listened with compassion to her request and responded with simple wisdom. He picked up a creeping vine from the tree and handed it to her, saying, "Go now. Just as this creeper will produce flowers in 1 month, so too will you give birth to a son." The grateful goddess bowed before him, tears of joy streaming down her face, and departed to fulfill her wish. 12 years passed like a single breath in meditation. The goddess returned to Dasura bearing a son of that exact age. She said to the sage, "Lord, this is your son. I have instructed him in all branches of learning and worldly knowledge, but I pray that you will now instruct him in self-knowledge. For who would wish to see his son grow into a fool?" Dasura accepted this sacred responsibility with grace, and the grateful goddess departed. From that day forward, the sage began to teach this young man the deepest truths of existence. And it was during this sacred period that the great Vasistha himself came flying over that very tree. He heard the teachings flowing from Dasura to his young student, and he descended to witness and participate. Then Dasura began to teach his son the deepest mysteries. He said, "My son, I shall illustrate the nature of this world through a story. There lives a mighty king named Khottha, capable of conquering the three worlds. The deities faithfully honor his commands. No one can challenge his valor, not even Indra, Vishnu, or Shiva themselves. This king is the master of all that exists." Dasura continued with profound clarity. This King Khottha possessed three bodies which had completely engulfed the worlds, one the best, one middling, and one the least. He arose in space and became established in space. Within that space, the king built a magnificent city with 14 roads and 3 sectors, filled with pleasure gardens, beautiful mountain peaks for sports, and 7 lakes brimming with pearls. In that city shone 2 lights, one hot and one cold, whose brilliance never diminished. There the king created several types of beings, some placed above, others in the middle, others below, some long-lived, others short-lived. The beings in the city had 9 gates and were well ventilated. They possessed 5 lamps, 3 pillars, and white supporting wooden poles, all soft with clay plastering. All of this, my son, was created by the Maya, the illusory power of the king. And therein the king disports himself with ghostly guardians and goblins created to protect the mansions. When he thinks of moving, he contemplates a future city. He runs swiftly to the new abode after leaving the previous one, occupying new cities built like magic creations. When he contemplates destruction, he destroys himself. Sometimes he wails in misery, sometimes he exults in happiness. Thus does this king live and conquer, go and talk, flourish and shine, tossed eternally in the ocean of world appearance. Dasura's voice grew even more penetrating. Now understand this, my beloved son. Khottha, who arose in the great void, is none but a notion or intention. This notion arises in the infinite void of its own accord and dissolves into that void of its own accord. The entire universe and whatever exists within it is the creation of this single notion, and nothing else. Even the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are merely the limbs of that intention. That intention alone is responsible for creating the 3 worlds, the 14 regions, and the 7 oceans. The city built by the king is nothing but the living entity, the jiva, with its different organs and characteristics. Of these different kinds of beings created by the notion, some dwell in higher regions and others in lower realms. Having built this imaginary city, the king placed it under the protecting care of ghosts, and these ghosts, my son, are ahamkara, the ego principle itself. The king thereafter disports in this body, in this world. In one moment he sees reality in the waking state, and suddenly he shifts his attention and enters the world of dreams. He moves from one body to another, from one realm to another, through endless peregrinations, all created by his own intention. After many such peregrinations, wisdom arises. The king becomes disillusioned with these worlds and their pleasures, and reaches the end of his wandering through the cessation of all notions. In one moment he seems to enjoy wisdom, yet the very next moment he is caught in pleasure-seeking, his understanding perverted like a little child. These notions take 3 forms: dense darkness that generates ignorance and lower births, pure and transparent that draws one toward truth and wisdom, and impure notions that generate worldliness. But hear this, my son, liberation comes not through any spiritual effort, not through the gods themselves as teachers, not from heaven itself. Liberation comes only through the complete cessation of all notions. The real, the unreal, and the admixture of these 2 are all but notions and nothing else, and notions themselves are neither real nor unreal. What then shall we call real in this universe? Therefore, my son, give up these notions, thoughts, and intentions. When they cease, the mind naturally turns to what lies beyond the mind, the infinite consciousness itself. My son, when all notions cease, there is great peace, and sorrow is destroyed to its very root. For everything in this universe, mind, intelligence, conditioning, even the concept of the jiva, these have no corresponding real substances. They are all but names attached to emptiness. Hence, remove all thought. Do not waste your precious life and effort in other endeavors. When you cease entertaining notions, sorrow ceases, liberation is attained, and you stand as infinite consciousness itself.
And so, O Rama, Vasistha descended upon that sacred tree and spent considerable time with these 2 in discussion of self-knowledge, awakening in them the supreme understanding. The sage then took his leave and departed. This story, my dear prince, is meant to illustrate the very nature of world appearance itself. Therefore, this teaching is as true as the world itself, which is to say, it reflects the deepest truth. Whether you believe the world to be real or unreal, whether you believe it has a creator or not, let this not cloud your understanding. The self is devoid of all senses, and though it performs all actions, it remains as if inert, untouched, eternal, free. Why then should the immortal self run after sensual pleasures during this brief 100-year lifespan? Give up the desires of your heart, Rama. Rest firmly established in the self, the highest state of consciousness in which the greatest among enlightened beings dwell. You are what you are in this world. Knowing this, sport freely in this world.
The teaching, all of creation, including individual bodies and lifetimes, arises from notions in consciousness, and liberation comes not through effort, but through the cessation of all ideas. Subscribe to Karma Canvas for daily wisdom from ancient spiritual traditions.